Let me ask you a quiet question, one that you perhaps only answer in the silence of 3 a.m. Have you ever stood in the middle of a crowded room, perhaps a holiday party or a busy office mixer, and felt an invisible, soundproof glass wall descend around you? You can see the laughter. You can see the mouths moving in rapid, energetic conversation. You understand the social cues perfectly, and yet you feel less like a participant and more like a ghost haunting the living. There is a specific kind of exhaustion that comes from this. It isn't physical tiredness. It is the deep, marrow-level fatigue of having to translate your true self into a language that feels foreign to your tongue. You might look at your phone, scrolling through a contact list that is incredibly short, and wonder if something is broken within the machinery of your personality. But what if I told you that this silence in your life is not a symptom of a defect, but the byproduct of a very specific, rare design? What if the emptiness of your calendar is actually evidence of a mind that refuses to compromise on the quality of its connections? You are not failing at the game of socialization. You are simply playing a completely different sport. Before we identify the specific traits that define you, we must understand the architecture of the mind that houses them. We need to look at the operating system running beneath the surface. In modern psychology, there is often a misunderstanding that human beings are universally designed for broad network socialization. The idea that the more connections you maintain, the healthier you are. But for a select group of people, the brain operates on a principle of high-stakes selectivity. For the majority, social interaction is a low-cost energy exchange, a way to pass time or maintain status. For you, interaction is a high-cost investment of the self. Your psychological constitution likely leans heavily toward what researchers call high need for cognition paired with sensory processing sensitivity. This combination means your brain does not filter out the noise of a conversation. It absorbs everything: the tone, the subtext, the emotional current. Consequently, small talk and superficial pleasantries are not just boring to you, they are psychologically expensive. They deplete your battery because you are trying to find depth in shallow water. The reason you have few friends is not that you cannot make them. It is that your internal architecture has a built-in safety valve. It automatically rejects connections that require you to perform a version of yourself that doesn't exist. You are not built for maintenance. You are built for resonance. There is, however, a cost to this architecture. We cannot speak of these traits without acknowledging the invisible grief that often accompanies them. Arthur Schopenhauer, the great philosopher of pessimism, once famously remarked that a man can be himself only so long as he is alone, and if he does not love solitude, he will not love freedom, for it is only when he is alone that he is really free. While there is liberation in that sentiment, there is also a profound ache. The paradox of your existence is that you likely crave connection more deeply than the average person, yet you find the available forms of connection largely intolerable. You are often stranded on an island of your own making, not because you want to be stranded, but because the bridge to the mainland requires you to pay a toll you cannot afford, the suppression of your true nature. You may have spent years feeling a low-grade mourning for the group of friends you see in movies, the easy camaraderie, the effortless belonging. But to achieve that, you would have to sever the very parts of yourself that make you valuable: your intensity, your observational power, and your refusal to live on the surface. If this resonates, let us look at the specific ways this high-fidelity operating system manifests in your adult life. These are the 6 rare traits of the selective soul. Trait number 1, the authenticity intolerance syndrome. In professional or social settings, you likely lack the ability to fawn or feign interest in things that do not matter. When a conversation shifts to gossip, status signaling, or the mundane details of the weather, you physically feel your brain checking out. You might be described by colleagues as aloof or serious, simply because you cannot perform the social script of enthusiasm when you don't feel it. This is not arrogance, it is an efficiency mechanism. Your brain prioritizes truth over comfort. You are allergic to the performance of connection because you are starving for the reality of it. You filter out people who require a mask, leaving space only for those who can handle your naked face. Trait number 2, the trauma sponge effect. Paradoxically, strangers often tell you their darkest secrets within minutes of meeting you. Because you listen with intense focus and without judgment, people treat you as a confessional. You likely find yourself exhausted after parties, not because you spoke too much, but because you carried the emotional weight of 3 different people who unloaded on you. This trait forces you to isolate for survival. Because your empathy is always on and highly porous, you have few friends because you must gatekeep your energy. Solitude is the only place where you are not metabolizing other people's emotions. Trait number 3, the object constancy dynamic. You do not need to see someone every week to maintain the bond. You might go 6 months without speaking to a friend, yet when you reconnect, the intimacy is exactly where you left it. However, most people operate on maintenance friendships, relationships that fade without constant check-ins. You view connection as permanent and internal, not temporal and external. You lose friends not because you don't care, but because you assume the bond is stronger than the silence. You require low-maintenance companions who understand that distance does not equal disinterest. Trait number 4, the deep dive communication style. You have a tendency to skip the warming up phase of conversation. You might ask a new acquaintance about their biggest regret or their philosophy on death, skipping the "what do you do for work" phase entirely. This often scares away those who prefer to wade in the shallow end. You are a depth seeker. You are unconsciously screening for compatibility. By bypassing the small talk, you are quickly identifying who is capable of swimming in the deep waters with you. It is a rigorous filtering process that leaves few survivors, but the ones who remain are lifers. Trait number 5, the value system outlier. You'll likely find yourself out of step with the metrics of success that your peers chase. While they bond over promotions, new cars, or trending topics, you are often preoccupied with internal growth, art, or abstract ideas. You struggle to relate to the shared hallucinations of society, the things we are all supposed to care about, but which to you seem trivial. You possess an internal locus of validation. You cannot bond over shared external goals, because your goals are largely invisible. This makes you a market of one, reducing the pool of potential peers to only those who have also stepped outside the matrix of standard societal striving. Trait number 6, the post-social hangover. After a social event, even a good one, you require a disproportionate amount of recovery time. It might take you a full day of silence to feel like yourself again. Because of this high recovery tax, you naturally say no to 90% of invitations, leading to a gradual shrinking of your social circle over the years. This is biological regulation. Your nervous system processes input at a higher resolution than most. You aren't avoiding people, you are avoiding sensory and emotional burnout. You treat your social energy like a finite currency, spending it only where the return on investment is guaranteed. So, where does this leave us? If you have recognized yourself in the glass wall of the first section, or in the specific, quiet traits of the list we just explored, you are likely standing at a crossroads. For years, perhaps decades, you have viewed your social reality through the lens of a deficit. You have looked at your small circle, your need for recovery, and your intolerance for the superficial, and you have labeled them as failures. You have told yourself that if you were just a little more outgoing, a little less sensitive, or a little more like them, you would finally be happy. But the path to healing does not lie in trying to dismantle the architecture of your mind. It lies in firing the foreman who keeps telling you that the building is condemned. You are not broken. You are simply a specialized instrument trying to play in a generic orchestra. You are a deep-sea diver forced to splash around in a kiddie pool, wondering why you feel so clumsy and out of place. The clumsiness is not a lack of skill, it is a mismatch of environment. To move forward, we must initiate a fundamental psychological shift. We must move from the pathology of loneliness to the sanctuary of solitude. The theologian Paul Tillich once made a distinction that saves lives. He said, Language has created the word loneliness to express the pain of being alone, and it has created the word solitude to express the glory of being alone. The actionable shift I want you to make today is to stop confusing these two states. Loneliness is a passive state. It is the feeling of being abandoned by the world. It is the hollow ache of waiting for an invitation that never comes. It is a state of lack. Solitude, however, is an active state. It is a choice. It is the recognition that your company is worth keeping. When you operate from a place of loneliness, you are desperate. You will accept any connection, no matter how low quality, just to numb the silence. You become a beggar at the door of social interaction. And because you are begging, you attract people who want to exploit that desperation. Narcissists, energy vampires, and people who simply want an audience for their own noise. But when you operate from a place of solitude, you flip the power dynamic entirely. You are no longer waiting to be chosen. You are the one doing the choosing. You begin to treat your time and your energy as the rare, finite resources they are. This shift requires you to embrace the museum curator mindset. Imagine you are the curator of a very small, very exclusive museum, the museum of your life. A curator does not feel like a failure because their gallery isn't filled with thousands of random people touching the art with sticky hands. A curator is proud that the gallery is quiet, that the humidity is controlled, and that only those who truly understand the value of the collection are allowed inside. You must stop trying to turn your life into a busy train station. You must accept that you are a private gallery. This does not mean you are destined to be alone forever. It does not mean you must become a hermit. It simply means you must change your strategy for finding the others. Most people hunt for friends using a dragnet approach. They cast a wide net, go to random bars, join generic groups, and hope to catch something. But you are looking for a very specific species of human, the other 1% who possess the same high-fidelity operating system that you do. You cannot catch them with a dragnet. You find them by becoming a beacon. A lighthouse does not run around the island looking for boats to save. It stands in one place, on its own solid ground, and it shines its light as brightly and consistently as possible. The boats that are looking for that specific light will find it. In practical terms, this means you must stop hiding your depth. Stop dimming your intensity to make others comfortable. If you are obsessed with obscure philosophy, talk about it. If you hate small talk, refuse to engage in it and pivot to something real. If you are passionate about a specific, strange art form, wear it on your sleeve. When you stop performing normalcy and start broadcasting your true frequency, two things will happen. First, you will repel the people who are wrong for you, the ones who find you too intense or weird. This is good. Let them go. They are not your audience. But secondly, and more importantly, you will become visible to the other people who are looking for that exact frequency. The other rare traits people are out there, hiding in their own glass boxes, thinking they are the only ones. They cannot find you if you are disguised as everyone else. By being unapologetically yourself, you act as a signal flare to your tribe. You might only find 2 or 3 of them in your entire life. But ask yourself, would you rather have 50 acquaintances who don't know your middle name, or 2 friends who would help you bury a body at 4 a.m.? We both know the answer to that. I know there is a shadow that lingers over this entire conversation. It is the fear of aging. The fear that if you don't broaden your circle, you will end up truly alone in your later years. We are terrified of the empty funeral. But let us look at that fear with the lights on. The tragedy is not dying with a small circle. The tragedy is living a life surrounded by people who do not know you. The tragedy is fragmenting your soul into 1,000 tiny pieces to please 1,000 indifferent people, arriving at the end of your life only to realize you gave everything away and kept nothing for yourself. There is immense dignity in the small circle. There is a profound integrity in the life that chooses depth over width. So the next time you find yourself standing in that crowded room, feeling that glass wall descend, do not try to smash the glass. Do not hate the glass. Stand behind it. Observe the room. Breathe in the silence that belongs to you. Realize that your solitude is not a prison cell. It is a fortress. It is the space where you have protected your ability to think, to feel, and to be, in a world that is constantly trying to make you forget who you are. You have few friends, not because you are less than, but because you are demanding more. You are holding out for the real thing. And in a world of cheap imitations, that is not a weakness. That is the highest form of self-respect. The right people will not be frightened by your silence. They will sit in it with you. And until they arrive, you have the best company of all, yourself. Good night.